Welcome to Becoming a Bookworm, the podcast where I verbally journal my weekly reads. I give reviews, I analyse any of the short fiction that I got my hands on that week. As usual, I'm joined by a guest, so I recruited my mum for this week's one. I got her to read it and we went through our first impressions and a little bit of analysis too. This week is the perfect short story to start with if you're an avid reader like me and you love to analyse and sink your teeth into things, but those long, intimidating books aren't what you typically reach for. So this is a short story that's quickly becoming one of my favourite short stories by American author William Gass. It's called Order of Insects. It was published originally in 1968, and yeah, let's just get right into it. Yeah, it's called Order of Insects by William Gass. It was written in 1968, so I'm assuming it's set at that time as well. It's in the collection In the Heart of the Country, which I think is a cool collection name. And it's about this unnamed housewife who becomes fascinated with the study of insects and explores her dissatisfaction with the monotonous housework she has to do, themes of anxiety, personal evolution, and her fears basically, and how she finds beauty in these unexpected, unconventional places.
Yeah, because when I first read it, I remember thinking I found it quite awkward to read because it felt like the punctuation wasn't where I needed it to be.
Yeah.
But then it also felt like her nervousness came across the way it was written.
Yeah,
because it made me stop and start, and I was like, hang on, I'm gonna have to go back and try and read it again. Mm-hmm. But then when I read it again, you could pick up on the fact that she was nervous about not just the bugs, but this, like you just said about the chores, that she didn't want to think it's her uncleanliness.
Yeah, she's defensive, and she says, I don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
And we find out too that there were bugs in her house before.
Yeah, like she said, what did she say about the house at the beginning? It's that's why we left that one, or no complaints after what we'd been through in the other place.
Yeah. So it's is the common denominator her? It's sort of left suspenseful of why are the bugs there?
Yeah.
We don't know, and that's kind of a weird element. But yeah, like you were saying, the way it's written, it is like a stream of consciousness. There's not a lot of structure that you're grabbing for the structure in it.
Because she's nameless, faceless, don't know anything about her.
It's just instant.
And the first time I read it, I just thought, well, hang on, and I had to reread it because I don't know anything about her type thing. It is just like a stream of, it's her thoughts, isn't it?
It's her thoughts. I feel like that's the nature of short stories though too, is that it will just push you in with no preface, no prologue, no epilogue.
Yeah.
You'll never know what was happening before or after this just moment in her life.
Yeah, because it doesn't spend time giving you extra information, does it? That's the thing with a short story, is just...
It's very
it's
economical.
Like a snapshot type thing almost.
Yeah, it's economical. It's like a scene. Is that the right word? Economical.
Yeah, that just means you're not putting a lot in. It's very sort of scarce.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Like I said to you though, I don't know what she looks like. I don't know how old she is.
Yeah.
I don't know her name.
Yeah, I feel like that's...
Not that you need to, but it's almost like you say, you come away going, huh?
It speaks also to that idea of I remember doing Mice and Men at GCSE, and Curly's wife.
Yeah.
She never had a name. And that idea of sort of the hysterical or lunatic female, which she does sort of become.
She does come across a little bit especially towards the end.
She takes it a bit far.
Yeah.
To be fair. That idea of we don't need to know her name.
We don't need to know that because she is just this stream of consciousness, this thought of this, like you said, this epiphany or this awakening. It's almost like it doesn't matter who she is. What's important is this...
Yeah.
What's that word? When she's sort of having this moment of...
This realisation
that you are a mere mortal and that there's a higher being at work.
And it's sort of that idea of what makes me better than this thing?
Yeah.
What makes me better than this bug? Nothing. So I'm not worthy of it because I've been afraid of it. I've been not killing them, but she vacuums them up. She feels guilt.
Because they're divinity type thing.
'Cause
They're an example of a gracious order.
Yeah.
Perfect for a short story.
Yeah, it is pretty nice. And it is like retrospective too, because she's like remembering a time where she wasn't obsessed with the bugs.
Yeah.
Because she's like, I was scared. She's scared of them, and she recalls this nightmare she's had about being in the vacuum with all the ants and stuff at night.
I could really relate to that though. What I thought was funny, rereading it again, because the first time I read it, I didn't like it. I must admit, I just went, oh. But it's that squeamish bug thing.
But it works though, doesn't it?
And then it's only when you reread it, and I thought, actually, that's really clever. Because straight away, I was like her. I found it all abhorrent talking about bugs and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then I then thought, well, actually, thinking back to when I was young and examining bugs and finding the beauty in them and that. But what I thought was funny at the beginning was when she describes them as like bits of wool, bits of mud. And it's like you're just trying to pretend there's something that's quite innocent, it's not going to hurt me. But then it changed even in the next couple of lines where she goes, okay, ink stains or burn holes. So it's getting worse, but gradually it starts off as a bit of wool, a bit of mud that the kids have brought in. And then, it might be a stain, it might be a burn. And then it just gets worse and worse. I thought it was really clever, actually.
But like the fact that she is so scared of the mud or the ink or the burn hole. She says she's terrified of it being a burn hole. It's like, why? Like this pressure.
Terrify me.
There's a pressure on this housewife, like, to keep a pristine, beautiful house. And
the language intimidated, and I thought, what? It's a bit strong.
It's like, she's not only just scared of bugs because she's scared of bugs, she's scared of, like, not being seen as this perfect, flawless thing.
Yeah.
It feels like to me, like, and it draws on the idea of just housewives and that gender role in general at the time as well.
Yeah, because I'm terribly meticulous, she says.
She's really defensive about the housework.
The house was clean, the cupboard's tight and orderly, so everything's,
Yeah, it's in its place.
Yeah, clever. But then ever so slowly, it starts, like you say, it goes from fear.
She's in denial, I think, at first, about being interested.
Yeah, she doesn't want to.
Because she says she covers her mouth, she covers her eyes, and when she looks at them, she feels guilt for, like, she says, I wouldn't kill one, I couldn't kill one, but because they're dead, it removes, there's like a barrier. If it was alive, she wouldn't be able to deal with it, but because it's dead.
She says, I'd never kill one.
I'd never kill one.
Yeah.
And it's like, but when it's dead, she can sort of remove herself enough to get close up to them and study them and actually start to obsess and love and have like an affinity with them. She wants to be a bug by the end, which is what I really like about it, because you don't really think about bugs in that way of like envying bugs.
No.
But what I really liked and thought was beautiful, she talks about the exoskeleton, because bugs have the skeleton on the outside.
Yeah, on the outside. Yeah, because I think it gets quite deep.
She goes really deep.
When I first read it, I thought, whatever, it's quite surface level. But then when I reread it and looked at it again, I thought it's all about, it's almost like that realisation, feeling that we're just one little part of something that's much bigger, that someone else has designed. And, and she starts talking about like humans relating it to philosophy and
she's talking about God and divinity and souls, and she goes really deep, but also more poetic as it goes on, because her simile in the beginning is quite juvenile. She says something like earthworms dying on the street or something. We're saying she, of course, it's a male writer, but just from her perspective, it's written from her voice. But then as it goes on, she's pondering, like, it isn't possible to feel disgust for such an order. What do we live with that is alive, that is not tamed? I love that line.
Yeah. That as humans, we have this need to control and tame.
Yeah, because she's got a cat, which of course will be a tamed cat.
Yeah.
And she's got children and a husband and herself. And it's sort of a question of, are we tamed? Is our conscious too tamed? Like, if you're going to go deeper with the interpretation, like, our subconsciouses are like, we don't delve into them often. So to me, that's saying, like, what do we live with that is untamed? Ourselves almost, but without knowing it. And then these insects, which are ugly, or we perceive as ugly, and they scare us inherently, are actually really intricate and
planned and designed. And so it's that chaos and like, because she likes to control. She's saying about the control at the beginning. It's not, I'll keep a clean house, on this, on that. And these bring disorder.
Yeah.
But actually, it then flips.
They're
and she
the
talks
most
about the order.
designed thing.
Yeah. So
and
something that she thinks shows that she's not organised and she's let things go and she's not, are actually the opposite of that.
Yeah, that's what I've got here, like, her own wishes of perfection within the home, and then she's scared of these bugs, and actually she can't be a hypocrite then and deny that these bugs are perfectly
Yeah. Because what does she say? She says something about when she starts collecting them.
She puts them in her sewing tins. Something.
When I observe them again, I don't see roaches. I see gracious order, wholeness, and divinity.
She sees
so it's
God.
Almost,
It's so.
But didn't you think, like at the beginning, when you, like you've just said, that's what made me think of it when you said about the childishness and the sort of simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
It's that idea at the beginning that she's not allowed to think any higher than that because she's a woman.
Yeah, there's
you know that bit where she says a woman thinking.
She says it a couple times.
She's almost like she's dumbing herself down.
Yeah,
talking about worms and this, and by the end of it, there's that little book she's got from a friend.
Oh, that's what I want to talk about.
I love. To be fair, I did French at school, but it was lovely reading that little bit of French and going, oh, she's talking about the head and the bottom. And
you knew what she was saying.
I thought it's quite funny reading it like that.
I love that French book because obviously the whole idea of it was a gift from one of her friends as a joke, like, oh, your garden.
I've got a book about worms.
As if she couldn't access that knowledge. But also the idea of something being foreign and new and alien to her. You're waiting for an invitation, sort of, because
again,
you're
you
a
don't
woman.
think you have the right to it because you're a woman, so you've got to dumb yourself down and what you know.
It's
like a guilt for knowing it or wanting to know.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite... But then I thought, well, look, you said it was in the 60s, so perhaps...
Yeah.
You know, that's a contextual thing at the time that women... But I mean...
Yeah, it's like it's not perceived as a ladylike pastime, is it? Anything to do with... But also, you'll make the ladies clean and cook, and that's not, that's not easy work. No. So it's like to say that, a woman can garden and clean, but actually bugs aren't something she should be able to have interest or deal with in.
As something that's much
it's more... so hypocritical and actually
as most sexy
yeah, exactly. I feel like the significance of the French book symbolises like progressiveness and a different perspective, a new culture, because obviously French culture being more cutting edge or whatever in the 60s.
She refers to it as an elegant tongue.
Yeah, it's like above,
looks superior.
It's highbrow.
It shows that she's had to be curious. She's had to learn something new in order to accept this new knowledge.
Yeah, there's like
it's come from a higher power.
There is like a theme of new experience because she's got a new house and the French book, and then the bugs and like becoming obsessed with these bugs. It's like she wants something that's hers.
Yeah, I thought that was significant. The fact that she's not hiding them in a tin, but collecting them. Well, nobody else is going to find them in there. She's not putting them in a glass jar.
No, she doesn't.
For other people, it's almost like her little thing, isn't it?
It's her little taboo thing.
Yeah. Like if the people we loved, if we could set them up in rooms to remember them. And
that was it. That's what I really like too, because she says bugs are superior because their exoskeleton is what they leave behind, and then she says, but we lose what we love. We lose the flesh, we lose
the outside image.
And get the skeleton, where if it was the other way around,
then we'd keep them.
Them out and not bury them and hide them. And it's sort of this like, if we didn't suppress these things, we could proudly show them.
Yeah.
Maybe, like the significance of that. I don't know. It goes deeper, I think, than just...
It's again linking it to this divinity, isn't it? That they are actually something beautiful. She comes full circle, doesn't she? To be from something that's abhorrent to seeing it as divine and, a superior way to humans in a way, doesn't she? The way she said they should be celebrated.
Yeah, there's a lot about the life cycle and death as well. And she contemplates the beauty of the autonomy of the bugs. So she learns the jargon, she learns that the babies are called nymphs and they're different in these ways, and it's very she has children.
Yeah.
So there's something linking that to me with the life cycle, and then she goes off about death, and then the soul. It's really contemplative and really deep level stuff that people wouldn't expect from a housewife.
No. Well, I noticed it. I said to you that first little bit where she talks about their quilted undersides, and I thought she's already starting to see beauty, because quilts are comforting. There's something you sew, a mother, a wife makes as part of a hand-me-down gift. Quilts are known to be comforters.
Yeah, of course.
And as soon as she said it looked like that in her mind, I thought she's changing her mind.
Yeah, she's in denial at first
sort of
about
foreshadows the fact that she's going to fall in love with these creatures. Ever so slightly.
Yeah, really slightly.
But straight away I sort of got it from that description. You think they are actually marvellous, because quilts are so meticulously made.
Yeah.
And they have to be neat.
She's impressed already.
Out. That's where she starts going, oh, look at the order in this and how well made they are. And that sort of, like you say, she perceives the specific anatomy then.
Yeah.
You know, and the way that's said, that's when you can see that she's noticed these delicacies about them and starts going, they're not scary actually, they are beautiful.
But only death removes her, like adds that barrier for her, because she can't deal with them when they're alive. She she moves out of her old house because she has an infestation of ants. And
she would feel differently about them if they were crawling about.
Yeah, very much. So it's like there's something about it being dead that's safe for her to get close. And there's a really good line. Let me just find it. The recent change in my life was the consequence of finally coming near to something. I love that. Yeah. That's like, face your fears type stuff.
It's a stark difference from thinking about the ants being in the vacuum cleaner, isn't it?
The nightmare.
Yeah, it's such a big step from that to, you can see at the beginning that description, which sort of, you can hear the revulsion and the fear, in how she's speaking, and then it sort of transforms into fascination. And
you can sort of see there like
with other bugs though, because it starts to spread, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It starts with the roaches, but it's not limited to them in the end. Once she's spotted that they're quite beautiful, the French book, she starts looking at, well, she says, doesn't she say caterpillars end up being one of her favourites or something? The way they swallow food and how they're built just for digestion.
Yeah, she becomes obsessed with the whole thing. She becomes a professional basically on it, and it actually it could be seen as like an allegory too, though, for prejudices, because immediately we're all scared of bugs, aren't we? Like automatically, if you see a bug, it's like, oh, this bug. And it's like, actually,
it's like something we learn, isn't it? You don't know it at first, you learn
it. It's like a learned, it's like any prejudice. It's like you're not born with that, because kids love bugs.
Very young children will prod and poke and see that until they see an adult go.
It's almost a forgiveness of bugs is how I read this, of like,
that's a nice one.
Yeah, because it's like,
what have they done, really?
What have they done to you?
Everybody hates them.
Yeah. That's so true. Like, I read it as a forgiveness of bugs, but then she takes it too far almost for me, where she goes off about, she says about herself, she feels unworthy like a piece of defiled clay. And I see there's biblical connotations with that. I'm not well versed enough to know what that is, but there's something about a God building us of clay.
Yeah, and something about somebody you've got to be moulded or something, isn't there? I can't remember myself, something about the Bible.
And it's like she really doesn't feel... It's sort of like, at first the bugs are this imperfect thing because it's not orderly with her. And then it becomes this irrational fear of like, I will never be as perfect as this bug, or I will never be worthy as these bugs. And that's the anxiety there.
Because that's where she starts talking about, if I shouted at my children, if I did this, that and the other, then I'm mortified.
She's really guilty all of a sudden about just basic things.
So the love of the bugs has alleviated that as well? Is that the idea? Does that transform? Where once she's noticed the beauty in this, and the anxiety about the bugs dissipates a bit, because she's very anxious about other things, like you say, the children, the house, the chores. Does that end up dissipating by the end of it?
Well, no, because, in my opinion, no, because at the end she says she's lying in bed with her husband, and she sort of says, I wish I could leave. I feel like she descends into this lunacy because towards the end she's saying she's not worthy of her life and of her womanhood.
Is this because the bugs are so technically built?
I think because she feels that she's in presence of God.
Yeah. And feels that as a woman, again, it comes back to that, as a woman, she's not worthy.
She's not worthy because that's no study for a woman, again and again in her mind, is being pushed on her. And it's like, at the end, she says, I'm surrounded by blocks. All those little petty things, they become meaningless to her because of the divinity she's had, like a, what would you call, an epiphany?
Yeah.
Don't Egyptians, I know they worship cats, but there's a lot of bugs.
Oh yeah, there's certain beetles as well.
Scarab beetles and things that have been like immortalised.
Yeah. Another one of the themes that, you know, we picked up on was that theology, isn't it? That this is coming from a higher power. It says something about she feels entrusted. Yeah,
like she's the chosen one to care for bugs.
Yeah, and it's like this sense of unworthiness that she's, like you say, this long-lasting feeling that she's a housewife. It's not something she should be wanting to do.
Like that, she's internalised that sexist ideology of like, that's no pastime for a woman, but she's took it to another level of, this means because I have this pastime or this hobby that it's actually something that's been bestowed onto me and I'm not worthy of this.
I'm not up to it type thing.
Like all prophets, you know, it's not something they want to do, especially. Like it's a sacrifice to do this.
Like they're martyred. They don't want, it's not something they want to do.
Yeah, not initially.
And there's more sort of biblical, the whole idea, this clay of my vessel, this idea that you know, you're being moulded by a higher power, and she's like almost saying, I'm not going to be up to the task.
Yeah, it's like she's got no say in it.
Yeah. But in a way, then she sort of welcomes this as a different fear. It's like, I'm grateful that my terror has another object rather than the daily chores and the clock and the blocks and the children's voices. She was sort of comforting that, even though it was anxiety.
She's misplaced her anxiety. It's like she is this, not mad woman, but she takes these pressures really intensely. So now the pressure is off her house life because she doesn't care about it as much because her focus is these bugs. There's a line that says something like her sewing machine now is the thing with the claw.
Has a fearful claw.
So it's like there are two interpretations to this though for me. It's like, is she now terrified of the housework, or does the housework becomes
the terror because she's content?
The terror.
And yet she's not content. It's just backwards and
forwards, a lot,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot to take.
She says, I've always thought that love knew nothing of order and that life itself was turmoil and confusion.
So she's a really troubled character.
I think the more you read it, certainly the last couple of 3 paragraphs, you start to feel that she's she's struggling sort of psychologically almost. It's like it's really shook her up.
Yeah, it's affecting her. Well, what gets me is the ending, obviously, because short stories are known for having endings that leave you like shocked.
Yeah.
Or just at least wanting more, or not a lack of closure, that's not the right term, but what would you call it? Like impactful finishes.
Yeah.
And like, you know. So it sort of says, how can I think of such ludicrous things? Beauty and peace, the dark soul of the world, for I am the wife of the house, concerned for the rug, tidy and punctual, surrounded by blocks. That is terrifying. That's what's terrifying, is that actually all these things now have no meaning for her. Like these rugs, these petty things that she once was so concerned with, like, oh my God, no, an ink stain, no, mud.
They're just the things that are
they're the things now in a different new fear.
Yeah.
The things that
have stopped her, blocked her.
They're ruining her life, like the confines of being a housewife.
The reality of life.
So it's like, oh, thank God I'm not scared of these petty things anymore. but it's like you've reached this realization of actually self-consciousness.
Yeah, it's like you've gone through another level of awareness and there's no going back.
That's
And
the
that's
fear.
fear.
Because of becoming...
If I'm not a housewife with all these
Yeah.
anxieties, then who am I?
Yeah. She's like, realised she's complicit, which makes her more self-aware than someone who just does it. But yet, it's scarier then for her because she's realised it. Does that make sense?
Mm.
It's like the realisation that you are complicit is scarier than just doing it.
Yeah.
There's something...
Yeah, because she's sort of standing outside of herself, isn't she? And realising all these things I've been frightened of. Sewing machines, washing machines, dirty faces. In the big scheme of things, compared to this bug, which is a tiny thing, but also massive.
Yeah, it's the scale of the bug being so intricate and how she's been able to, I don't know, study them.
And measure her own life by it, almost.
Yeah. So you can understand how she feels unworthy.
It is a squat, black cockroach after all, such a bug as frightens housewives, and it's only come to chew on rented wool and find its death absurdly in the teeth of the renter's cat.
I feel like that's her saying that her house, even, is an unworthy host to this bug.
Mm.
She's got this really bad inferiority complex when it comes to this insect.
There's no permanence to it, is it? The rented wool and the renter's cat.
Yeah.
Like she's
like her life
isn't real, isn't
owned, her own.
Yeah, isn't her own.
And she says she compares herself to a murderous tendencies, or she says she's got murderous thoughts and things like that. It's like, is that because she's witnessing and harvesting all these corpses and dead things? Is she sort of saying it's her fault they're dying because the cat is killing them, or something in her house is killing the bugs?
Mm.
She feels responsible.
Yeah, because she says, strange, absurd, I am the wife of the house. This point of view I tremble in is the point of view of a god. So she's almost laughing and going, well, hang on, I have got control, I have got power, but how can I? Because I'm the woman.
She acknowledges that it is sort of silly that she's contemplating, you know, because in God's eyes, if we're going to go there, she sees herself as a god over the bugs in normal hierarchy.
Yeah.
And in the food chain, she is way above the bugs.
She could quite easily just crush them.
But she can't.
I've been entrusted with a kind of Eastern mystery, so it's all sacred and, you know, like she's in a different club.
She is. It's interesting.
The point of view of a god, and I feel certain somehow that could I give myself entirely to it, were I not continuing a woman, I could disarm my life, find peace and order everywhere. So she's saying, like, if she put her mind to it now, she knows she could continue this in a much bigger scale.
Yeah.
But she can't because she says, but, start of the sentence, but I am a woman. I am not worthy.
Almost her job then, in her mind, as a woman, is to find disorder and, quote unquote, fix it or, you know,
or live with it. That's what she thinks to her, because she says somewhere about...
but she's saying if I weren't a woman, I could live peacefully.
Yeah, I could move on. I could just... And she even says, you know, I could go away like a wise cicada who abandons its shell to move to other mischief. But she can't. So she said,
wants
you know...
to move bodies.
Yeah. I could do like they do and just move on when I've had enough.
Because some bugs do what crabs do, is find different shells or like shed.
Yeah, they just shed and go again. This must be what this cicada, if I'm saying cicada, I don't know, abandons its shell to move on. I could leave and let my bones play cards and spank the children. Peace.
Yeah. So
she finds this newfound peace that she's never had in her life. In the one thing that used to frighten her now brings her peace and order. And she knows she could go on and find more of that. But, she says, how could I think of such ludicrous things? Beauty and peace, the dark soul of the world, for I am the wife of the house. So it's almost like damn you for showing me this, because
she can't.
my life really is here with these rugs being tidy and punctual and surrounded by blocks.
It's almost like that curse of being intelligent.
Yeah, you've shown me the universe, but I can't have it.
Like lost potential, because she's got all of this knowledge and intelligence that she feels she's been gifted with, but also it's a curse.
Yeah, and that's where she said she doesn't know what to do with it. I've got all this power.
But because she's a housewife.
I feel like a god, but I'm a woman and a wife and a mother.
It is like a gendered commentary, isn't it? And that's why I really like it, because you can read it and take it for what it is, of like a lunatic little ditty. And it is beautiful writing, though. Some of the lines are really impressive. There's a great one. Precision prevents my earlier horror. There's just some really nice writing in it.
Yeah.
But then also you can take it really further.
Oh, you can read into
and analyse it.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes it quite sort of intimate, in that it's her own thoughts. It's like her train of thoughts, and that's why you start thinking, is she mentally ill? But it's that like awakening in her where she's going, oh, I've got this. It's at my fingertips. I can feel, the universe and the power that this knowledge is going to give me, but I'm restricted and restrained. I'm
inferior to it, yeah.
It's almost like she's just talking to herself. It's like a conversation with herself.
That's why it wins as a short story too, because if this was a long form, it would fizzle out for me. Like,
you couldn't withstand.
You can't keep up.
Yeah. I don't think you could.
You can't maintain that style. That's why the short story as a form, and as a poem, even then it would sort of not work.
Yeah.
So I think the short story is like,
because there was little parts of it, I said to you, it sounded like it had gone into like
poetic. Yeah.
You could really feel it, and it
borrows,
to do with the wash and losing your galosh.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, but again, it's like she's playing with it. She gets all playful. Oh, this is my old life, and I was worried about, and it all gets a bit rhymy.
And there's references to the Bible and sort of these, she says something about the island where Goliath met whatever.
Yeah.
I can't think of the line, but she makes these really intellectual references, and it's like you can see quite clearly that she's really intelligent.
Yeah, but it's a shock to her.
Yeah.
As well.
And she can't
break out.
She can't pursue that.
No. Because, gosh, what would the children think? At the end of the day, she says, I'm the mother of the house, I'm the wife. What an absurd idea. To think I could be more than this.
Yeah. So just to wrap up,
yeah.
I mean, I want to invite everyone listening to read this story, make their own analysis of it.
Yeah.
See what you think, see if you like it as much as I do. It's definitely one of my favourites.
I'm glad you made me read it, because on first reading I thought, what?
It is a lot at first to
But then when you look again,
devour.
It makes you think, gosh, yeah, it's quite sad, really.
It is sad. I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
But not in like a pity way, but in like like a lot of housewives of the time probably.
Yeah.
And a lot of people now probably feel that same way.
Yeah, you're just restrained by either societal
conventions,
or even your own. It's your own limitations. I mean, realistically, if she wanted to go and do these things, she could have, even in 1969.
Yeah, she could have. Yeah,
but it's the parameters we put on ourselves, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, and I think the use of the bug is really perfect for that, because we all know that feeling of like the initial like about bugs, but then when the author, what's his name, William Gass, describes the bugs, it's undeniable to be interested in them and to understand what she's going through of being like enthralled with them. It's a really understandable hobby. So it's like sad when she almost ultimately takes it too far for even her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loses that sort of excitement from it because she makes it too big a deal.
She makes herself, like you say, a martyr for it, and
instead of just going, do you know what? I really like bugs.
Yeah, just because she can't say that.
No.
That's what it is. Society's holding her back so far that she has to take it too far herself, almost. Yeah, I really like it.
So do I.
Yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.